Good. So I was going to mention that this very remarkable thing you mentioned about these Shula yogas. I mean, Shula yoga is something we generally try to avoid because it's a bad scene, really. Too much Mars. And then at the same time, we're peaking on the solar flares and all the solar activity. So usually when the solar activity goes high, of course, there are these storms, solar storms, which are already causing some disruption to people's, communication satellites and things. And in the worst case scenario, it could knock out, power for whole countries and things. So this is going on especially this year and next year. It's said to be extremely good for the meditators because it causes some kind of uprising of the energy in the body. But if you're not meditating, then you probably go a little crazy, and that's contributing to the generally, conflict tendency that you were mentioning. It's overheating. This is a problem. It's the overheating kind of situation. So I'll just share my screen. Here you go. So rather than doing slides, can you see my, yeah, you probably can. So this is a page from my software. Supposed to mention something, which is version 10 is now available on the Microsoft Store. There's no charge for downloading it. You get the free version. Then you can pay a little bit for Pro or Gemini. So the free version actually is really quite powerful, but people are used to my software will say, oh, there's nothing here. They'll want to upgrade, of course. But all the basics things that traditional astrologers tended to do in India when they had to calculate by hand, it's all in the free version. Anyway, so here is the London chart. And what I've got over here are various other things which we can look at, which are related to the Lagna. So the Vimshottari is the same everywhere. And for an annual chart, we are compressing it so that the whole cycle lasts 1 year. So this is the standard technique, but it'll be the same for every country. But the fact is, Vimshottari has certain variations, and this is gradually becoming known. And in version 10, you have this Vimshottari AK UK. It's just a little acronym. But what it is a kind of automated Vimshottari. So depending on where the moon is sitting in the chart, it may change. For various lagnas, it's the same. For some, it changes. So this one will change for some countries. Then we have the Narayana Dasha. This is an example of the Rashi Dashas, probably the best of the Rashi Dashas. But each Rashi Dasha has a particular sort of focus. Rashi Dashas are Rashi, so it starts Aries, Taurus instead of going, Sun, Moon. And so it's very, very much focused on the signs. You see how the thing progresses around the chart. So for example, for the UK, we start with Pisces. Why? Because it's the strongest sign in the 1-7 axis. So obviously, if the Lagna changes, the whole Narayana Dasha is changing. So if we're trying to time something for countries, then this is a very useful Dasha to use. Narayana is said to be the guy. That's why is it called Narayana? Well, that's because it's strongly connected to the 9th house. The method of calculation is dependent on the 9th house, and the 9th house represents the divinity. So that's why Narayana. It's nice to be reminded of Lord Narayana. So then we have the auspicious divisions chart. Now, there are two ways of calculating the auspicious divisions. So Parashara, when he gives this calculation, he gives a very interesting and we could say a little obscure calculation, which nobody really seems to be using, but it is what Parashara teaches. And his main point, or the main idea, is that the Kendras from the Aruda Lagna have a special strength, and especially the lords of the Kendras. So whichever the planets are the lords of the Kendras from the Aruda Lagna, they have some kind of auspiciousness. So any planet that falls in one of their signs gains strength. That's the idea. Then he starts reducing it, because if one of the lords is, combust or somehow damaged, and he gives certain rules for damaging, then they lose that power to give auspiciousness. So a lot of people, when they get the software and they put this chart, they see, rather small numbers. Like in this case, Mars has only got 1 point. So they think, how is it so low? It's because there's anyway only a few signs that give auspiciousness, and out of those you may have lost several or all of them because of one of Parashara's rules. So to recover our sort of state of self-confidence, we can change to the other rule, which is that the auspiciousness depends on the own sign and exaltation sign in all the Vargas considered. This is based on the Varga charts. So then you get a fairly decent result. But for the annual chart, this Parashara method is interesting because it depends on the Lagna. Because when the Lagna changes, the Aruda Lagna changes. And so you get a completely different graph for each Lagna. So the various factors, it's not totally different, but it's largely different. So for example, as you go around the planet, Mars is quite low, but in some places it's very low, and some places it's a little higher. So for example, I'll show you in a minute. And Mercury also goes up and down. So if we say that Mercury is something to do with the economy of the country, then like for this chart for UK, we see Mars is low and Mercury is very high. Well, maybe the country is going to be doing better than expected economically. So this is one interesting way of differentiating between different lagnas, because if all the lagnas are the same, it's not much use for this, except for making some generalizations about the planet. Okay, now let's think about the how to see the thing in more visually. Because I bow down before Gordon, because the amount of work he's done is just phenomenal. And creating that, it just like how many dozens and dozens of countries, and each one he's had to work on, So like a huge effort he's put in, and there's no real shortcut for it. But I'll show you how you can get a sort of general a view quite quickly. So in order to create a Chaitra Shukla chart in my software, you have to start with any chart. So this is the chart for this class. And then we go back to data entry. The fastest way to get to data entry, what I'm used to, is just clicking the date here, but you can click one of these buttons, like this button, or you can go to the menus. There's many different ways. Or just Control A on the keyboard. There's more than 5 different ways. Anyway, this is what I'm used to. So then you click this thing. It says OK per special. See at the bottom here. So this includes various things like Varshval, Tithi Pravesh, but it's also including various other Praveshis like the Yoga Pravesh, Nakshatra Pravesh, and Chaitra Shukla chart. Because the Chaitra Shukla chart is a kind of Pravesh. Pravesh means entry. So, for example, the Tithi Pravesh is when the time in the year when you enter into the same Tithi as you had when you were born. Tithi means lunar day and the same solar month. So once a year you have what is called, we could call it Vedic birthday, the Tithi Pravesh. The Varshva is a kind of annual solar birthday, and the Tithi Pravesh is a kind of lunar solar birthday. So they can be up to a couple of weeks different. And in my experience, humble experience, I get more out of the Tithi Pravesh than the Varshva. But, some people I know are big experts on Varshva, so I, honor that very much. Anyway, so if you select Chaitra Shukla, and you can select the year here and the location, so we'll just leave it at London, and we click OK. Then we'll get one, and it says here, see? So for the purpose of this, here it says London and CS, Chaitra Shukla, and the year. So I'm going to move this one over to here, swap them using this swap button, because everything on the screen is for this one. So this is now the Chaitra Shukla chart for the year. If you wanted to change the year, you only need to click here and change it. But we're only concerned with 2024 right now. So the next thing I do, if I'm doing an overview of the planet, is to put up the Astrom Map. So, a quick way of doing that is Control-G for geography. Or you can just go to the time-space change menu and get it. So here we have the map of the world. And this is used for a lot of things. Astro mapping is a very, very powerful technique. I mean, it's just stunningly accurate in my experience. But you have to know how to use it. And the critical thing, I've got a little video, free video on my website on the version 10 page about astro mapping and the various techniques you can use for it. And that's really works in version 9 and most of the earlier versions as well. So the key thing is working with the map and seeing the charts on the screen at the same time. So while you can make this map as big as your whole monitor screen, for this purpose, we want to keep it, over here somewhere. So we can see at least the charts we can see here. You can make this thing as big or small as you like. Then you see there's a little cross here on London. This is because the current location is London. Now, if you hold the Shift key down, this is version 10. In version 9, you have to click track, but I got rid of that version 10. I couldn't really see the reason for it. So if you hold the Shift key down and you move the mouse, you see that the little cross is moving with the mouse. And everything on the screen is updating. So here we are somewhere like Libya. It's Libra rising. And if we go to Egypt, it's still Libra. But by the time we get to Saudi Arabia, we've gone to Scorpio. So, we can scan across the whole planet in a matter of moments. Mm. So it's a very super fast. If you want to get the chart for the capital, you have to enter it. You go down here and click change location and you put in your new location. Because the moment of the Chaitra Shukla is the same everywhere. So you do need the chart, you need a little help to create it, otherwise you're bound to, it's difficult to get it right. But the purpose of the Astro Map is it will locate to any other place while holding the moment the same. So it does all the work for you, really. But as far as getting a general idea, we can use this technique of scanning. So yeah, we go up to Ukraine here, and we see the Libra rising. And you notice Mars and Mercury very weak in the auspicious divisions. So, I mean, it's kind of, you don't really need astrology to tell us it's going to be a tough year for Ukraine. And then if we go up somewhere near Moscow, well, the Russians are doing better financially. I mean, poor Ukraine, but Mars is still weak. As I said, it's weak for every country, but it's still relatively at the bottom. So, ongoing fighting is continuing. That's what can we say. The bad scene. So now it's very interesting. I mean, unfortunately, Israel is still Libra. So if we go to Israel, you can zoom in on this map by right-clicking. You let go of the Shift key and you just right-click a bit. So let's move here. It's about Tel Aviv here somewhere. Okay, so what you see is the, same problem. This is difficult. I'm not saying you can do a whole analysis just on this one little graph, but it's giving us an idea. There's going to be a tough year. And this tends to apply to, the countries around. I mean, Jordan has got nothing for Mars. Let's hope they don't get involved in this whole mess. And Saudi is still doing fine financially. It makes a big difference in Mercury. Then we go across to Iran. We see that Iran is doing a little better. They're doing quite well. But still, the risk. You see, this is now Scorpio rising. And let's look at the chart. You see, you've got Scorpio rising, and as Gordon was explaining to you, Scorpio we consider to be ruled by Mars and Ketu. And in some ways, Ketu has the strongest say, because Ketu says to Mars, look, you've got Aries. Don't bother me about Scorpio. So you know, that's why Scorpio has a lot of Ketu in it. It's a Scorpion, isn't it? And also it has, you know, spirituality. Scorpio people tend to go towards spirituality. They have leadership qualities. That's not just Mars. You know, a lot of spiritual leaders have Scorpio rising and so on. It's to do with the Mars-Ketu combination. And it's a very powerful, it's strong royalty connection, really. And here we see Ketu's gone the 11th house, which is, you know, probably a good place for it. And then Mars has gone to the 4th house. Now, the Lord of the 1st in the 4th house is not bad. I mean, it means you're paying attention to your situation at home. So what is your situation at home? Well, we have Mars and Saturn in Aquarius. So it's a bit of a struggle, probably. I mean, it should be that you're paying attention to the welfare of the people. You know, Saturn is the regular citizenry. And Mars is the one supposed to be looking after them, right? And Saturn's strong in Aquarius, very strong, especially around 20 degrees. But on the other hand, when we look in the Navamsha chart, we'll just drop this for a second and go to the Navamsha chart, which you've probably seen already, that Mars is in Pisces and Saturn is in Aries. So again, you know, Mars has got a big say over Saturn, while in the Rashi chart, Saturn has a big say over Mars. So they're a bit intertwined, but Saturn is definitely weak. You know, it's a weak position. As good as it is with Mercury, but Saturn in Aries, you see. So that generally, even though it looks like it's good for democracy, but we'll see a certain struggle going on across the planet between the sort of suffering masses who want to, you know, the leaders to pay some attention to their circumstances and not getting much attention. We can't generalize for everywhere, but there'll be a bit of that. But very, very fortunate Mars is in Pisces, I would say, because Pisces is not a very warlike sign. You know, so even though Mars and Saturn look like, you know, very dangerous, you know, when I first looked at the chart, I thought, oh my God, you know, this is going to be too much fighting, but this will be somewhat controlled, I think. Saturn is aggravated. Mars is a little, you know, softened, which is good. So I think we can say about Saturn that there's going to, you know, Saturn is, its strong association with Mars gives rise to some kind of anger and frustration. And this is mainly, I think, going to be seen in the people, you know, as opposed to the dictators and the other leaders. They'll be facing a lot of unhappy people. That could be quite likely, I think. But people don't really know why they're angry. They just know that they're not happy, right? So then if we look at this whole Navamsha chart, so we can see Saturn is the weakest planet, really. Sun and Moon have gone to Aquarius Navamsha for this eclipse. Well, you know, that just makes matters worse, doesn't it? Because in the Navamsha chart especially, you know, Aquarius and Scorpio, we don't like those signs because, you know, they're not happy signs at all. Too much of the nodal influence, and we've got Sun, Moon, and Jupiter. All the Sattva planets have really taken a hit here. You know, Jupiter, we think, not too bad in Scorpio. It has some positive values. Jupiter's in Scorpio could give some boost to the spiritual. Anyone doing spiritual work will get a boost. And there is all kinds of people stepping up to try and do something, because unless there's a spiritual awakening in the world, we are finished. The chance of humanity surviving is very close to zero, according to the scientists. But a spiritual awakening could shift people's attention away from pure greed and into a more peaceful space, and it could fix everything. I was amazed to read that something, I got the BBC or somewhere, Telegraph, Gwyneth Paltrow and her group, like the last place you'd expect to find promoting some meditation thing, but she's got a new meditation technique with guided meditation, everything, open eye meditation. So, well, this is just great. It's just like people are really trying. There's a lot of people trying. Some great yogis are doing, of course, leading the way, but then there are other more regular types who are doing something positive. So this will get a boost, I would say, from Jupiter, but from other points of view that Jupiter represents, which is mainly probably economic. And then the sun and moon is basically the royalty or the rulers. They're all in some difficulty. So, there will be changes of leadership, or there will be people longing for changes in leadership. So all that's going on. Then Rahu is probably quite strong in Capricorn, and Venus is very strong in Libra. So the strongest planet is Venus in the Navamsha chart. Now, Venus is not only in Libra in Navamsha, it's in Pisces. So this is the the ray of hope for the year, isn't it? So we have to see, for each Rashi, Lagna, what's going on. But it's possible if we go for the US. Want to be a bit bold. So you come over here. This is a DC kind of thing. So this is Cancer. Now you can see with this technique that different parts of a country may have different lagnas. So it's not, the capital is kind of like the federal what's happening level. But then, like in America or Russia or somewhere, there are different provinces, states, and each one has its own destiny. I mean, if you look in America, you could see that some states are doing fantastic and some states are really struggling. So it's not a sort of like global, I mean, the whole country is doing good or doing bad. It's not like that, People move, taking their money with them. So the unpopular states are really struggling. So anyway, but if we take this, the federal view, there's the Cancer rising. So we have Jupiter and Mercury in the 10th house, and we have this beautiful Venus in the 9th house. Scorpio's in the 5th house, which is the royalty, one of the royalty locations. Of course, Mars is with Saturn in the 8th house. So it's not a clear cut. We can't say necessarily it's a clear cut, but we could say that in some ways this does seem to favor Biden because he's got Venus in the Lagna. He's got Scorpio Lagna with Venus. So that's quite strong from this point of view, and if Scorpio could be Ketu, it could be Mars. So Ketu is quite well placed actually, and Mars is a little bit not so well placed. So Mars is some chance for Trump. Trump is a Leo with Mars in it. So Mars got him elected the first time, but there's no real Mars in his chart at the moment. He's suffering from a lot of shani. So we're not bothered with politics here, we're just astrology, right? So from an astrological point of view, we could say maybe it's tilted a bit. We shouldn't go crazy over politics. It's just a giant distraction, really. We should focus on the meditation and other good stuff. So anyway, let's go to Asia. You can scan out here, and then we can go over here. So we said earlier that India has this wonderful Sagittarius rising. So for the most part, this looks great because it's the best possible location for the Lagna Lord, and Mercury is also helping. Now, this chart shows a very low mercury, so we don't know if this chart really, how well it's working, because I'm sure the Indian economy will do well. But maybe it won't do quite as well as, everyone's expecting. We'll see. But certainly the chart favors India. I would say the Sagittarian locations have the best shot for the year, really. Now, if we go a little bit to the east or west, well, if you go west, Pakistan's already Scorpio, so that's not so great. If we go east, then we've got all these other countries which have Capricorn rising. So obviously, the country everyone's watching is mainly, China and that area. And Taiwan tends to have the same chart, a small difference from Beijing. This Navamsha might change. But basically, they're locked in a kind of destiny together. And what have we got? We got Capricorn. And of course, the Lord of Capricorn is this Shani. Shani looks strong, but we just discussed the weakness in the Navamsha chart. So whatever sort of grandness that it should be demonstrating is a little undermined. Now, the anger and frustration is going to be seen most in these countries because they're the ones with the strongest influence of Shani. I mean, this is just astrology, it's not politics. Whatever is the reason, maybe there's some economic issues. Now, not every country in this Capricorn region some of them are doing brilliantly. I mean, China's a big economy. It has a few problems on some here and there because it's shifting from one particular growth mode into some other mode, but it does have some issues at the moment. So anyway, I mean, all we can say is that there's a lot of tension, but I'm hoping that due to Mars being Pisces in the Navamsha, there's not going to be all-out war. When I first saw this chart, I thought, oh my God, but I'm looking at it, I'm thinking the small conflict may not turn into world war. That's what I'm hoping. Please no, guys, don't do it. All right. So that's probably the most pressing story of this for many people. We're very worried about that situation. So anyway, maybe this is the time for some questions.
So Andrew and Gordon, one sec, let me get Gordon here as well. Yeah. So Paul has asked two questions. Paul Barker, Aquarius is Mrityu Bhaga for Libra Lagna UK chart. Can you comment on the significance of this, please? He meant Virgo Lagna, not Libra. So UK has Virgo Lagna and Aquarius is Mrityu Bhaga. That's...
You mean Saturn is or Mars is?
No, he just said that it's a Mrityu Bhava.
Oh, Mrityu Bhava. Yes,
not
yes.
Bhaga, sorry.
I was confused by the Bhaga.
Yeah, Bhava.
See, everybody has a Mrityu Bhava. And there's going to be difficulties. We can't get around it. It's not going to be the country is not dying, but maybe the government changes what to do.
Then the second, Gordon, you have anything to say about it?
It's not a concept I'm very familiar with, but I get the sense of it. It's just that we've got some very severe challenges. I mean, you can see it coming. You can see it. It's happening already. The health service. I've been suffering from the inefficient, the terrible inefficiency of the health service recently. Intractable problems.
Yeah.
Intractable problems. Yeah. It's the thing. Saturn, Mars together.
I think I agree. And this is the UK chart now. You see, where's the hit coming in? A large amount of hits coming to this fifth house.
Hmm.
And the fifth house is the royalty, and it's also the it's the power, seat of power. So it's an impossible situation for the prime minister, and the king is suffering also. So there's a risk in those two areas, we have to admit. But Ketu on the Lagna is in a way good for the country because, you know, Queen Elizabeth had Ketu right on her Lagna, and she was stellar. Of course, the country went through whatever it went through, but everybody appreciated her a lot. And all of the royals, one way or another, they have Ketu and Rahu dominant in their charts. It's a sort of marker of the British royal family, and to some extent all royal families, because Ketu represents everyone who has a flag outside their house. You know, in some parts of America, every house has a flag outside, but not everywhere. But you know, it's people who have a strong Ketu, like, you know, why would you put your name in large letters on the side of a helicopter, a plane, you know, a building? I mean, it's the Ketu dominating in your chart. You feel you've got to have the flag up. So, you know, for the royalty, it's normal, and in a democratic country, I guess anybody can do it.
Okay, you know, I can't now, for some reason, access the Q&A. So could you
let me
just look
try.
at it? Yes.
Q&A, here we go. Yes. Oh, Jupiter and Mars in the D9 chart, Parivartana. Yes. So let's have a look. There is that. It's definitely a thing, the Jupiter Mars. Oh, I'm sorry. You see between Aries and Scorpio, I mean Pisces and Scorpio, you've got an exchange. I mean, it's good, you see, and Jupiter's aspecting Mars. So Jupiter has a big say on what Mars is doing. So this is my hope. You know, if it wasn't for that, it'd be all out war. But Jupiter, some wise person is going to say, please, sir, don't press that button. And hopefully they'll listen. You know, we have to make Jupiter as strong as possible. That's all I can say. Then we won't, you know, we'll live for 2025. I mean, I don't want to sound overly, some people are going to survive anyway, but it'll be much less terrible. Jupiter remains strong, and it should be, but there should be more effort put in because we have technologies for this. The whole Vedic system has technologies for this. Vedic astrology isn't just, you know, drawing charts. It's you draw a chart, then you go to the temple and you do the appropriate pujas. You know, you get teams of pundits reciting. You know, there needs to be using this technology, because if you use the technology all the way to the Vedic yagyas, it makes a difference. According to the Lord Krishna and, you know, all the Vedic seers, it makes a very big difference. And we should use it, you know. That's all I can say. If you don't do that, then you're just subject to the vagaries of time. Now, there's another question. Can you say anything more about the Aruda Lagna for the UK? Okay. So, yes, Aruda Lagna in Scorpio. Well, at least it has Jupiter behind it. And there is a Rashi Drishti of Jupiter, so these are good. But you see, again, fifth house is taking a hit. You know, that whatever it's a problem for the ruling whatever, the people involved in ruling. This is not their happy year, I'm afraid. You know what to do. But the country as a whole, I think, is fine, really, fundamentally. Gradually it'll regenerate itself. Venus, Venus in the 5th house from the Aruda Lagna is helpful.
And Andrew, have you I have a question, please. Have you considered the name of the Samvatsara? What is the Samvatsara this year?
A very good question.
Because what I found was that the quality of the Samvatsara has a huge influence on Chaitra Shukla for the world, because that's like, everybody shares that.
Yes, I've got a graph.
How can we find that?
Yeah, I'm going to show this. Let's turn off the quick reports. This one of the features of version 10 is you click on something, it gives you a report on it. But the personal punchline table, which I did for you, Camilla, and does this have the Vatsa in it?
No,
Here it is.
that's new then.
Protein. Yeah,
Crodin.
I thought, yeah.
Anger.
Yeah, the year of anger. Oh. And it's the year of the dragon in China, isn't it? Fire dragon or something. I'm not sure which dragon, but it's not. I mean, the good thing about the year of the dragon, because I heard a Chinese astrologer talking about it, and he went through, the US election, the Chinese situation, everything. And because you see, you have to see the year you were born versus the year of the dragon. And he said, not a good year for Xi and not a good year for Trump. And that was his whole story, But anyway, as far as Vedic's concerned, it's this Grodin year, and it's related to Vishnu. It's a water, and it's the house that's the sign that's strongest is Scorpio. This is something I added in version 10, I think. So it gives a lot of strength. So this is helpful for the UK, and maybe those countries with Scorpio rising will benefit. Libra rising people, not so good, huh? Because 12th house. So,
Thank you. So I think we should finish now. I don't think there's any more. Pam has raised her hand. Pam, you're allowed to talk. Anything you want to say?
I just say, can you hear me?
Yeah, very clearly.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well done, both of you. And Andrew, goodness me, what you've done to Sri Jyoti's star. Fantastic. I mean,
thank you so much.
stellar.
It was a fantastic presence.
Yeah, not kidding. So yes, members will be very pleased if they haven't been attending, because they will get the recording.
Yeah.
Great.
And thank you, Pam.
Yeah, I mean that.
All you're doing. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so we are finishing this presentation, and I have special thanks for Gordon for all that extra work you've done. All the countries have beautifully showed it so easy, and Andrew made it easy on your software to do all this very complicated work. And I can't wait for version 10. So it's already available on Microsoft Shop, so I'm going to sign up. And excellent presentation. And let's hope that the better Jupiter prevails, the better thinking prevails, rather than the wrong thinking. So let us hope for that. Om Shanti. So thank you. I think everybody is
Thanks
very
so much, Camilla.
Thank you. So you can end it, please.
Yes.